Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome, everybody, to the I have my own voice in my ear. It confused me there. It's really hard to talk when you're hearing yourself delayed. How about, can we hear you, Blunty?
Hello, it is me, it's Blunty, and it's
Yes,
Tuesday.
we can. It is. It's time for the news.
Yeah,
Got FPV news for y'all.
that's true. There's another Tuesday with more FPV news. We've been away, as we tend to do lately. We go away for some time, but we've returned to give you more FPV news.
There's a principle in operant conditioning where, the mouse rings a bell and then the mouse gets a treat, right? Or your dog, you're trying to teach your dog to sit and he gets a treat when he sits. And then there's this principle called slot machining. You familiar with it?
I guess. Yeah, maybe not exactly what you're talking about.
Well, the idea is that if the reward is consistent, then you actually don't get conditioned as thoroughly, and as if the reward is unpredictable. What I'm getting at is people get more dopamine if we're not here every Tuesday. Right?
Fair enough. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think that's how it works.
I don't either, but that's okay.
That's why television shows famously just skip weeks for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, who wants a schedule?
Who wants a schedule? Well, I would like one, but I can't have one. So be it. Let's actually get into the news, though. And our first story this week, going back to the early days of the live stream when every week had DJI news, we got some DJI news.
Yeah, we do have DJI news. And it's interesting. This is step one in the process of compatibility for the new hardware. Yeah, hopefully. DJI has just updated today to add Avata 2 support for the Goggles 2 and the Goggles Integra. And along with that support, you'll also be able to use that DJI Motion 2 and the DJI FPV controller 2 when used with the goggles Integra and the goggles 2.
Mm-hmm. And I had to look at this a little bit, Blunty, because I wanted to really understand exactly what was going on here. And basically what DJI has done is now people with the G2 generation of hardware, so that is the goggles 2, the Integra, the motion controller 2, and the FPV controller 2, can use the Avata 2.
Yes.
Right? So if you wanted the Avata 2, but you hadn't bought it because you didn't want to buy the goggles 3 and all the new stuff, you just wanted the drone, now you can. And it'll work.
Absolutely.
So what is this not? This is not people who bought the Avata 2 and the goggles 3 getting backwards compatibility to the O3, for example, which I know people want. Right?
Yep. Yeah, this does not... This doesn't give O3 compatibility on the goggles 3, and this doesn't introduce any information about the O4 air unit, which we were hoping to get a little bit of teaser about as well.
So that's it's interesting to me. I mean, obviously, DJI might just be doing it in stages, but it is interesting to me because, like, it still leaves open maybe the possibility that they don't introduce backwards compatibility for the G3, which, to be clear, I think they're going to introduce backwards compatibility, but the fact that they released forwards compatibility for the last generation, but not backwards compatibility, does make me kind of wonder, like, what's going on there? I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I do think, again, this is similar to the original release strategy we saw, which is where we got some compatibility with the goggles, and then we got the release of the new air unit, which would come next. So the O4 would get announced. And then, like, if it goes like last time, and then after that gets launched, then we would get backwards compatibility with the O3s and the new goggles, if it happens to follow the same pattern as last time.
Yeah. This is interesting, though, because I just realized this, and thanks to a comment from, let's see, who was the comment? Oh, I can't find the comment. Doesn't matter. Sorry, commenter. But this does confirm that the G2 is compatible with the O4 air unit. Although we don't have a standalone O4 air unit yet, the Avata 2 does have the O4 air unit in it, and it confirms that the G2 is at least capable of being compatible with it.
We did know that technically, but yes, I agree. But it's also limited to 40. Yeah, I mean, we're using the same chips, just different ways. Like, you know. Yeah. But it is only 40 megahertz instead of the larger, what is it, like 60 megahertz or whatever the new O4 is. So when you use the Avata 2 on the goggles 2 Integra, it goes down to 40 is your max.
So that's 50 megabits per second, whereas I think it's 60 megabits per second for the G3. So you're losing a little bit of image quality, but I don't think anybody's going to really think.
I think, isn't it 50, but it's just better, or is it 60? Well, I thought it was 50 on the Avata 2, but it's like better now, and we're trying to figure out why they need. Oh, is it 60? But it's actually 60. Room for 75. That's what it was. Yeah,
maybe
because 60 megahertz would give you room for 75,
assuming a linear increase. Yes, and all the other ones are a linear increase. But my memory is that it's 60. Just I'm like vaguely remembering a DJI like PowerPoint I was given that said 60, or maybe I'm just making that number up. But so exciting. Not as exciting as it could have been, but still exciting.
Hopefully the first step. It does mean that anybody who's interested in this and bought into the last gen doesn't feel left out anymore, hopefully, and they could purchase the Avata 2 now to use with their old hardware, which is part of the promise that we hoped would happen with supporting their hardware in the future. So,
and also, let's not forget the people who got screwed by this are the people who owned the G2 and the RC controller 2 maybe, and the motion controller 2 maybe, and they wanted the Avata 2 so bad that they bought the whole $1,000 kit, and now they have a G3 and an RC controller 3 and a motion controller 3 that if they had just waited a mere month, they could have saved their money. But that's what you get for come on. When you put your credit card down on release day, you knew you were going to get screwed, right? Like you knew.
Yeah, so. I think so. I mean, if you've got all that hardware, you have to know that it's possible it's going to be compatible in the future.
Yeah, you just didn't want to wait. Okay. Okay, well, yay for that, and hopefully we'll have more about that in the future when eventually the O4 comes out. Next up, news from
Next up, we have a
GoPro.
story about GoPro. Yeah, so GoPro is pulling out the litigation hammer, or whatever you want to call it. They did this way back in the day, and they've done this before in a couple other cases. But the big one I remember is the Polaroid Cube, when they were trying to make a cube-style camera, and GoPro basically shut that down because they were claiming it violated the patents of the session. We now have... they are saying that Insta360 is violating its patents, both for the design of the Insta360 Ace Pro camera. They say it's too close to the design patent of the GoPro, and it infringes on 5 other patents for design, or for, like, I guess they're called utility patents, basically things like super view and adjustment of aspect ratios and things like that. Yeah,
GoPro has a lot of patents. And isn't afraid to enforce them. And some of those things are like patents on things that it feels like shouldn't be patentable, but obviously are, because they have them.
Right.
Like there's Super View, where they basically take the 4:3 image and they scale it down in a nonlinear way. I believe some aspect or all of that is patented. And it's like, all you're doing is stretching the image and rescaling it. How is that patentable? But somehow it is. Then you get to the design patents, which are just like, well, it looks like a GoPro. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because I think the design patent was how they got the Polaroid to stop. Though I don't remember if they settled out of court or how that worked out. I would assume it would be similar here, but it is interesting because that new Insta360 camera is so blatantly close to a GoPro.
Yeah. Well, is it still for sale, or have they stopped sales?
As far as I know, it's still for sale.
Okay, so somebody will owe somebody some money, but ultimately customers are not directly affected, at least not immediately.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good for you, GoPro. We got a link to all these patents, right? That's what all these links are, the public...
Yeah, got a link to all 5 of the patents that they're saying they're infringing, and then a design patent that shows the GoPro that they're talking about. Are
any of them interesting enough to look at on the stream, or are they all just a bunch of...
They describe things like the function of super view, the function of virtual lens simulation for video and photo cropping, things like that. It goes through, explanations of how they work.
So. Ooh, look at this. This is patentable. Like, I get it. I understand things have to be patented, and sometimes they're new, and then after you patent them, they become ubiquitous. But this is... I could do this all day long in Premiere. Just transform an image and stretch it. It's not hard. The fact that GoPro's doing it in the camera somehow makes it patentable. I don't know. I'm sure there's nuances here that people who are patent lawyers are like, well, you're completely missing the point. But I don't know. I look at this and I go, yeah, no, that's not a patent. That's trivially obvious. Yeah.
If you click on the second one, I think it's pretty funny. If you click on the second one and then go down 4 pages,
okay.
They have some drawings that they did to show the lens cropping ability. Just scroll down until you see the hand-drawn pictures.
Hand-drawn, oh. Let's see here. Oh, no, I'll zoom out on that.
I thought these were funny.
Sure. What am I fucking seeing? Oh. They're cropping in on the image.
A virtual lens is simulating when applying a crop or zoom effect to an input video. An input video frame is received for the input video that has a first field of view and input lens distortion caused by a lens used to capture the input video frame.
But all you're doing is zooming in. How is that patentable?
That's what it feels like, isn't it?
You're just zooming in.
The subframe is processed to remap the input lens distortion to a desired lens distortion in the subframe. It's basically
blah, blah.
We did the image processing with the information we got from the camera, right? That's not...
There you go. Well, that's how patents are. I don't know. Of all the things to be mad about in the world, I think that's probably low on the list. But every time I'm reminded of bullshit like this, part of me goes, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. Let's, how about some happy news? I'm always happy when a new version of EdgeTX releases.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know that EdgeTX 2.10 is out, not to be confused with 2.1. This is 2.10, 2.10 has been released. And some information just generally. A lot of people are not using multi-protocol modules at this point, right? But for people who are, there's now 4 different types of firmware. So if you're missing protocols, you should know that you might need to flash a different version of the multi-protocol module. It's too big now to fit on the one device.
I see. So there's air and surface, and LBT and FCC. There's four. There's air LBT, air FCC, and surface LBT, surface FCC. Is that right?
No, there are 4: air, surface, LBT, and FCC. I'm not sure why they've chosen to break them up.
Oh, so then does LBT have?
So if you click through real quick, if you click to downloads, and then
let's do that.
On the right side under firmware type, you can do the drop down. But on the there's a little question mark on the right, and it explains all 4.
Oh God, okay.
So we can just show
core protocols plus airborne aircraft, core protocols plus ground or watercraft, air, surface, and EU LBT protocols. So FCC is like everything, but won't fit in the flash space on all devices.
Yes. So you may end up needing to flash something like air if you need FCC, but you can't fit them all.
I see.
I think is something like that.
I see. Interesting. And then EU LBT is what anyone in the EU who wants to actually follow the rules will flash, which is going to be not very many people. But there we go. Okay.
So yeah, piece of news about that, and then otherwise just some general upgrades for EdgeTX. You know, things like color LCD upgrades, custom images on shutdown, new splash screen on boot up that gives you current version of EdgeTX installed, which is kind of handy. We haven't seen that for a while, so that's nice to just show for a user when troubleshooting. Yeah, different views you can do, sources list picker and filters have been reworked. You know, basically just our general seasonal update that we get from EdgeTX.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like there's like major features here. Just some bug fixes, little UI changes and so forth. But it's nice. Frankly, the fact that we're getting regular bug fixes and refreshes and that the project is like still alive is I'm happy about. Like OpenTX went into a mode at the end of its, well, I mean, technically OpenTX is still around, but they went into a mode where basically they just didn't release anything and just sat on it for a long time. And you were like, are you still here? It's nice that EdgeTX is still here.
Also, they have added cloud builds on EdgeTX Buddy. So if you wanted to do cloud builds, if you need to do certain things and you don't want to build locally, you can now build them through EdgeTX Buddy with a couple special things. And they're slowly implementing more of that as far as I know.
Well, before you only had the ability, you didn't have the ability to cloud build at all. You just downloaded the firmware and you didn't have any options. So now that they're doing cloud builds, you have some options to like leave certain features out or change certain features. So that's nice. All right. Well, EdgeTX 2.10, welcome to the party. Next up, we got a documentary about Tiny Whoop Open.
Yes. And I will say, I just want to preface this.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I just want to preface this by saying we will always show any documentary about FPV that's well made. Like you know what I mean? Like we've shown quite a few at this point. And I think this is super valuable to the hobby. It's also great for people to watch that's in the hobby. Like it's just all around. This is great content. So I just want to shout out at the beginning, like, please, if you're making content like this or you're thinking about doing it, please make this and send it in. Because I love this kind of content. That being said, this is a wonderful documentary about Tiny Whoop Open 2024. Infinity Loops went and took interviews from most of the pilots. He got great track shots. He got tons of footage of the whoop house on the after parties every night. He got tons of training footage and interviewed Justy Perkins about a bunch of the information about the Tiny Whoop Open. I mean, it's really a comprehensive look at what happens. It gives you the feel of being there with cool music and cuts and little scenes of them doing all kinds of cool stuff with the whoop house or going through all the track. And like, I'm really impressed by this.
Yeah. I love this kind of material that kind of gives you just a look into the life of an FPV event and what it's like to be there. It gives you just a feel for the culture. You know, it's not as like serious a kind of a documentary, but in many ways it's more accurate than something like more strictly documentarian.
This is really,
yeah, go ahead.
one of the things I think is so cool about this is it sort of does the race coverage, but I think in a way that really feels watchable, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
He goes through here and interviews pilots, and he goes back up each rank. So he starts at the low ranks and then works his way up by the people he got interviewed from, shows their races where they dropped out, shows where they finished out, gives some final words from each pilot. And then goes, kind of goes through all the rankings, shows the trophy ceremonies for each of them. And it's just, it's really cool. It's well done. You can follow it very well. It's not attempting to be chronological. It's just attempting to show you, in order how everybody placed and what their feelings are and where they're from and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, so many people here. This is really great. Only 3.5K views. Hopefully get a few more after this one, after we cover it here.
Yeah, I hope so. People definitely need to go watch this.
Thank you to Infinity Loops for making this. I know, like, the work... First of all, I got to say, you go to an event like this, and you on some level, you want to enjoy the event, and if you're also going to shoot documentary footage, there's no other way to put it. It detracts from your enjoyment of the event, because you're spending so much time trying to think about, who do I need to interview? Have I missed somebody? You're basically storyboarding the documentary in real time in your head while you're there at the event. And so Infinity Loops could have just gone and partied and had a good time, and he chose not to do that so he could make this documentary. So it's a real sacrifice in a way, and it's just an enormous amount of work to take. I mean, you come out of this with 10 or 20 hours of footage, maybe.
And not to mention, all that footage, and then chronologically lining all the interviews up with what you find out later were all their placements and rankings, and then going and matching that to all the DVR that you've gotten collected from everybody.
Yes.
And then you lined up all this DVR with all the it's super impressive.
Yeah. So definitely go check this out. Give it a watch and give the man his views and I don't know if he's monetized, but if he's not monetized, if he is monetized, give him his ad revenue. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on. We got some insight here into how the fastest drone on Earth was designed. Now, this is not the Dutch drone gods, Blunty, because they no longer hold the title of the fastest drone on Earth, do they?
Yeah, we looked at the world's fastest drone where it was broken by a father and son duo that are both engineers / extremely scientific people. They were able to break the world record that the Dutch drone gods had set. This is a follow-up by the father to the son's video. And this video goes much deeper into detail about how the design worked and kind of the iterations they had to go through and some of the challenges they had. They show a lot of burned up drones and failed attempts. So it's a cool little diary of their stuff that they tried.
Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at the chapter titles here. I love this kind of content. I love it. I love it because, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it, so many people look at the final attempt where the guy pegs the throttle and the drone goes 300 kilometers per hour and breaks the record, and they're like, well, I could do that. Well, you just built a drone. I don't know, you just made it go fast. And, it's really lays bare all of the decision. It's not that easy. It's a lot of decision-making and failure. Excuse me.
It's not that easy, but also they are working within the design limitations of two people on a personal budget with personal facilities, personal testing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's interesting to contrast that because, they were debating for a while. One of the things they talk about is they were debating for a while the size of the drone. Yeah. And the ultimate size they decided on was just the size of their print bed.
Right. Wow.
So,
could it go faster if it was bigger?
They They don't know. They said it probably ends up looking like it was optimal, but at that point, that's a real lucky guess, right? So like, it seems interesting. They said they couldn't do 5-inch props because they were spinning too fast, so they had to do 7-inch. So they were trying to figure out how to fit it, and they just ended up going with the biggest thing they could print. But they're wondering if, where do you go with it? They are doing a new version of it though. They talked about a V3 in here too. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Very exciting. Thank you to, let's see, Mike Bell is Mike the dad or the son? I'm not sure.
Mike is the dad.
Mike is the dad. Do we know this? Do you know the son's name? Luke Bell.
I think it's Luke. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to Mike and Luke. You guys, you could have just published a video where you broke the record, claimed your crown, and said, gone on into fame and obscurity, let's be honest. But by making this content, you really are showing your commitment to getting the knowledge out there. And I'm always happy when someone does something extraordinary, but I'm extra happy when they reach down and they bring other people up with them and sort of raise the level for everybody. And you guys are definitely doing that. So thank you for that.
I will just say, to me, and I don't know if we even have the info for what the Dutch Drone God's insides look like the entire build of that drone, but the big thing that I thought about, half of this was dedicated to them figuring out a way to fit the ESCs into the drone and have 4 individual ESCs that could take the heat tolerance and get the proper cooling. That was a big part of this. Yeah. And so for me, if you worked with an ESC manufacturer and built custom PCBs for something like this, it would probably totally change the game. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like a custom ESC design. I'm trying to find the cutaway where they show how the ESCs are wired, and here we go. So they've got the ESCs laid out like this.
This was that's one of the earlier designs.
This wasn't the final design. Them up
together, yeah.
Trying to get more airflow on them, right? Oh, here we go. Here's the result of not enough airflow on the ESCs. Yikes. Because you have to have, it's an interesting conundrum, because you have to have the fairings for the aero, because the aerodynamic drag is one of the main things that slows you down. But you also need airflow through the ESCs to cool them, but in such a... Why don't you just mount the ESCs? At least you mount them on the outside. Huh?
But you lose the aerodynamics. That's how important they are. So if you look at 723, and then you play there with it muted, you'll be able to see what we're working with here. They show the vent system that they built. And they show the ESCs.
What?
So those are the ESCs mounted up there, and then they've got vents on the side, and the vents drag the air through to cool the ESCs actively through the heat sinks. But this was it seems like anyway, this was a big challenge, was getting this to work properly with the ESC mounting, and get the big enough ESCs to handle because they were just burning up 4-in-1s the first time they tried this.
Especially because these guys, it's not like they have a wind tunnel. I saw them testing the frame design by holding it out the window of a car. And it's not like, I'm assuming they're not experts on aerodynamic design. You get somebody like Chris Rosser on this, he could do all the simulations or something. So they just figured out how to make these ducts work. But it feels like there's so much room for improvement here. Is that the optimal size of duct? Is that the optimal design of duct? We just don't know.
Yeah.
So this 300 kilometer per H, whatever the record was, they could probably go even faster.
Yes, I think definitely. Even in the run that they got clocked on, when they did it, their runs were, 508 and 452, so downwind and upwind. So, I think there's a good chance that they can get, even higher, especially like they talked about with all the improvements that they can make. Yeah. Anyway, like we said, it's really awesome for them to share all this information, and hopefully they can keep pushing it.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be cool to see a Google sponsored competition, like they used to do those kind of things where big companies would sponsor and then pay the winner $50,000 if you made the fastest drone in the next year or something. We need to see one of those kind of design competitions come out from somebody.
That would be amazing. Yeah, you'd see a lot of progress. I had the idea. I was thinking. It's actually during this live stream, but I can't remember what triggered it. You know what a tractor pull is? Where they got the big sled with the weight that moves up the sled.
I know where this is
going. And then the
yeah.
tractors try and pull the weight. Yeah. What if you did a drone tractor pull? Huh? You have a multi-rotor,
Yeah.
and it has to pull the sled. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
I'm just thinking there's a lot of variables I'm thinking about. Yeah. Would you actually have it work like a tractor pull where it's in the ground? Or would you have it just very heavy and you pull up?
That was my first thought. My first thought was pulling up. So you take off and you have to, I don't know what it is. Like, do you have a weight and you have to lift the weight or something?
Yeah. And you're trying to balance between upwards thrust and speed, I guess. Like, well, I guess that's still thrust, though. So what do you really...
On a tractor pull, they go purely for distance.
Yeah.
Right? So if you were going to emulate a tractor pull, it would be maximum height achieved.
But a tractor pull, well, I guess so. The thing, like at a tractor pull, you're varying things like engine and gearing and torque and like wheel size and distance from the wheel bases and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like I guess on drones, you're doing the same thing where you just have an open class and you sort of can build anything.
Right. You got let's say you had a 1 pound weight and I don't know, 5-inch or 7-inch props. I don't know. You have to pick. I'm not sure how you would balance that. And then you know, the clock starts. And the drone lifts off, and the drone has to raise the weight as high as possible in it. I don't know. I mean, like, do you just... I'm not sure. Because in the tractor pull, the weight gets more and more. Like, it gets higher. The tractor digs in more, or the trailer digs in more. Like, in theory, you'd have a drone with, like, an 8,000 milliamp hour 6S, and it would just slowly climb forever, and it would be more of an endurance thing than it would be, like, a power thing. So I don't know how you would structure it exactly. But it sounds fun.
The thing that I'll say about that, though, is we always build drones right now for endurance, because in a tractor pull scenario, endurance would be longer than 20 seconds, right?
Right.
So,
well, eventually,
so like,
as I understand it, the trailer digs in enough that the tractor can't pull it anymore. And so their goal is to move it as far as they can. Yeah.
Yeah, all I mean is even in racing where you're going balls out, you're trying to get 2 minutes or whatever, right? 2.5, 3 minutes on the pack. If you tried to build a drone where you literally were only attempting to get max thrust for 10 to 20 seconds, which that's more similar to like a world record drone, but then you need to lift things. That might be actually an interesting kind of thought process.
What if you had like a fishing weight, a fishing scale? So you got the drone is on a string or rope of a given length. And the drone is going to take off straight up, and the idea is to put the maximum pull on the fishing scale. What do you think of that?
I'm trying to think of like why it just feels like you quickly get to an optimal solution for that. I'm just trying to think of what variables you could add or what you could do to make that not like after a year, the next year, everybody has the same thing because they all figured out what worked the best, right?
Yeah.
Like, could you do like average pull over 20 seconds or average pull over 30 seconds and you have to pull for 30 seconds and you average the weight, and if you drop out at 10 seconds, you know what I mean? Something like that. Maybe. Interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. An ESC up, you know, you have to cool your ESCs without airflow other than off the props. You know, you're not moving.
Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting things to think about.
It's interesting. That sounds, I don't know. Probably nothing will come of it, but.
Yep.
You know, there's a story we didn't cover this week, and it's another drone design. It's another drone design, on a novel. Someone asked in the comments, is why I thought to mention it. Do you? I feel like I have to at least acknowledge it, and that's that Terrence Howard went on Joe Rogan, and talked about his ideas about physics and mathematics. And it's relevant in case people don't know. He did a contest some years ago to build this novel kind of drone that he called the Linchpin. He announced it on my channel. I actually got to talk to him. And long story short, 5 people submitted a winning design that met his requirement for a drone that could both translate up, down, left, right, and rotate in space. And he actually, I'm happy to say, he paid the full, it was like $25,000 prize money to all 5 of the finalists instead of just the winner. And in that respect, I consider it a win. Although I have to say, you know, watching him go on Joe Rogan and talk about his ideas about math and physics does make me cringe a little bit. But did get some cool drones out of that.
Very
yeah,
true.
Quick Flash, the Emu Flight developer, won that. That's correct, Joseph Tafari. Yeah. So the reason we don't have a lot to say about that, even though he's back in the news, is that the stuff he's talking about now doesn't really have a lot to do with the stuff he did back at that drone contest. So,
yep.
Anyway, let's move on.
All right. Next up, we have the cinematic of the week. It's a little different than the normal cinematic of the weeks we do. This is from basically a little show on YouTube called Southbound by a YouTuber named Danny McGee, you might know.
Ooh, beautiful.
And this includes basically a motorcycle trip through Mexico where there's a lot of different film shots that are wonderful. Many of them are done with DJI drones, FPV drones, stand-up cameras. I mean, it's great. It's just a very well shot.
These shots are amazing.
Yeah, it's very well made. Very well made.
Some of these shots are amazing. The drone shots are extremely well done. Like we're not listening to the music because a lot of times it's copyrighted music, but like I can just like tell from the movement of the edits, like this is very well done. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of thought. It feels like a lot of thought went into the shot selection and like how they chose to film everything and where they set up. And anytime I watch anything like this, it's like, man, just think about how they had to get those shots.
Yeah.
Like you have to plan and go, okay, everybody go ahead, and I'm going to post up here. We're gonna everybody wait, and then.
Yeah, it's so weird because like you look at a sequence, this opening sequence, like okay, we got a shot of some waves, all right, some motorcyclists, and we got some chasing some motorcyclists, fine, building. Like on some level, this editing is not like it's not like flashy. But, like, it's so tasteful. It's, like, just so right, Like, the movement and the framing, it really shows how, like, really good. Like, look at the movement here and look at the framing of them. And now we're moving the same left to right motion, but with parallax on the mountain, right? Now we're moving forward, okay? Now we're moving up and forward. It's, like, it's so well done, just these little shots. That's so cool. I haven't watched this, but now I want to watch it. So
yeah,
very cool.
And this is just episode 1. They're doing a whole series of these. So yeah, check them out on Danny McGee's channel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm so jealous. Like I have had DJI drones and I have done reviews of DJI drones. And in the context of doing those reviews, I've been like, okay, I'm going to get some cinematic shots now. And I put the drone up and I'm like, I don't know. I guess pull out, push in, kind of track sideways. And the results are never as this fucking good. And I'm like, how hard is it? It's not that hard. He's just going zoop. But somehow it's not the same when I do it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to hey, there's an eye for that stuff, and there's a lot like you have to really understand like what you're getting. Like, what are you gonna do with this? Like, what are you making? And then what did I actually get? When I just filmed that, and I only get one chance. Which shot should I take? And there's just so many variables to this stuff. So very cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, links to that in the video description. We got some events coming up. Real life events that you guys might want to know about. Let's run through them.
All right. The first one is the Race of the Lowlands. We talked about this last year and maybe the year before. But if you're Dutch, then you might want to check out this. And you probably already know what's going on. But this is this weekend, the Race of the Lowlands in Bonheiden. I don't know how to.
Sounds good to me.
Say that. All right. So if you want to go check out the Race of the Lowlands, you can sign up. I believe there's still openings in the 32 pilots to go race at the Race of the Lowlands.
Okay. We got links to that in the video description. We've also got Weston Park whoop racing. Always love me a whoop race.
Yeah, if you want to check out some whoop racing and you're in Shifnal in Weston under Lizard.
I'm sorry. You made that up.
I did not. If you
Weston
see on the map,
under Lizard? Come on. If you say so.
Yeah. So yeah, if you wanted to hang out in Weston under Lizard and do some whoop racing.
I feel like we should call it lizard or something. Just like, it can't be lizard.
I mean, they got some names over there. That's for sure.
But that's my point. Like, if the obvious pronunciation is lizard, it can't be lizard. Let's check this real quick.
Okay.
pronouncenames.com.
Okay.
Weston under lizard.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, you guys. I got nothing. I tried. Weston under lizard. There you go. Okay.
All right.
Whoop
so
racing.
yeah, if you on the 14th, if you want to do some whoop racing, you should go hang out with them. Yeah, and get that done. That's in a couple weekends from now.
Okay.
So go sign up. And then last but not least, we wanted to tell you about an event that happened in Malaysia. So we cover every now and then we check in with our Malaysian drone racing family over there, and they are doing their multi-GP qualifiers. Their spring season, they're still going strong over there and have been growing since we last talked about them. Yeah, they wanted to, let me pull, I thought I had the email up. I did not, so give me 1 second. Pull that up.
I love these pictures of all these people. I love it. Like, there's chapters in big cities in the U.S. that don't get this many people showing up for a race. Like, these guys are really dedicated and really love FPV.
They had 39 pilots sign up, flying in 65 rounds and 6-up configurations. ZippyQ system they used, and have rotor, hazard, and multi-GP toolkit plugin. They were very happy with their results. They also did some sports and pro double elimination, and we've got links to those brackets as well. And then we've talked before about 9-year-old Pepper FPV, and Pepper remained top qualifier and also managed to finish first in the pro category.
Nice.
So yeah, cool stuff over there. We'd love to hear from them, and we're happy to report that they're doing good stuff.
Awesome. We're very happy for them. Next up, we got a couple things related to regulations and laws. And these are U.S. regulations and laws, but as we know, as goes U.S., so often does go the rest of the world. So, yeah. And I like to put these near the end of the news because a lot of people don't care about this stuff, and it can be a bit of a downer. But the first one is actually possibly important. And this could directly affect us in a way nothing else has, but we don't know if it will get passed. So this is called the Drones for First Responders Act. And if you don't care about this at all, in the future... Let me interrupt you. Is Elise Stefanik, is that the same person doing the Countering CCP Drones Act?
That is correct.
Okay, so this lady just hates drones. Got it. Continue.
That is correct.
Okay.
Almost as much as she hates China.
China.
Excuse me, I had something in my throat. So basically, here's the skinny on this. The Drones for First Responders Act is set up to say that essentially foreign drones, like those from China, will be subject to a tariff on purchase. Every single drone you purchase, manufactured by China, okay? It starts at 30% the first year. So that means any DJI drone you bought, as soon as this was enacted, the first year you would pay 30% extra on top of that as a tariff to the U.S. government. Okay? Then every year after that, it would go up by 5%, ending at 50%. And then the year after that, it would be 50% plus $100 on top of each purchase you made from them. And then after that, in 2030, it would become illegal, and they would ban the purchase of these drones.
Wait a second, though. This says... no drones may enter the United States if they contain flight controller, radio, etc., manufactured in the People's Republic of China.
On January 1st, 2030, it bans all drones, including
not just for
parts.
first responders.
No. This has nothing to do with first responders. That's the problem with this act. This act is every single person. This act is everyone in the entire United States.
It has nothing to do with first responders. It adds tariffs to... Okay, so here I'm thinking, well, okay, but I'm not a first responder, so I guess it's okay.
No, every single person in the entire United States, including first responders. So get this, okay? Here's the dumb part, okay? A lot of first responders are using these foreign drones, right? So they would also be subject to the tariffs, okay? So then that tariff money will get put into a big fund.
Oh my God.
And that fund of money will be made available to first responders, farmers and ranchers, and critical infrastructure grants.
Oh my God. So the idea, so basically every single consumer in the United States who buys a drone made in China or with any parts made in China would pay this tariff so that our first responders can buy domestic drones to replace the Chinese drones that they already have that already work pretty well for them. Correct. So, and because it's first responders, if I'm like, F that, then I'm the asshole.
That's exactly correct.
Hey, what do you mean? You don't like first responders? Wow, this guy loves China and hates first responders. Whoa. Oh, could put him on the blacklist. Nice try, Stefanik.
That's exactly the plan here. This has not been introduced yet. We don't have the gov track on this, but as far as we know, it will have bipartisan support, similar to the Countering CCP Drones Act. So there is some concern that this will pass. And if that is the case, then unless this is reversed by 2030, it will be illegal to purchase any Chinese drone parts in the United States of America.
At all.
At all. And the first year will be a 30% tariff on every single part purchase that kind of goes under any, like other than the frame, essentially.
So, like, for example, this would be applied at the importing. So, like, Get FPV or Race Day Quads would be paying a 30% tariff to import the parts.
Correct.
And then, of course, passing that on to consumers who, as we know, are incredibly willing to pay more for parts. Like, we're already getting hit because prices of things have doubled, roughly. Flight controllers and ESCs have roughly doubled since 2020-ish, maybe 2021. Yeah. Everything is more expensive. Just about the only thing that hasn't doubled in price is motors, strangely. Maybe frames, so they've gone up, but not like quite as much. And yeah. So now we're just going to tag 30% on top of that.
Yeah,
so that
first
responders.
And then 40, and then 45. I mean, it's just insane. And then literally the year before they're banned, it would cost you, for a flight controller, it would cost you 50% extra plus $100 for the flight controller.
Oh my God. It's that $100 is per component, not just for the whole drone.
Yeah,
so
they really don't want you to buy it.
I buy a $60 flight controller. It costs me $100 plus 50%. Plus 30, it costs me $130 extra dollars, which is like a complete deal breaker.
My opinion here, okay, all opinion, but like this seems clearly to be, we cannot make something cheap enough to compete or good enough to compete in the United States. So the only way we can do that is shut out the entire the entire group of people who can do that correctly and who can beat us. So then there isn't any competition. And then that money is going to end up going to first responders and people to purchase drones from these companies. So it's essentially a way to funnel everyone's money without doing it with taxpayer money. That's the idea.
Right, because that's the thing. This is like a handout for domestic drone manufacturers in a way, because the first responders will get the money, and then the first responders will ostensibly spend the money on U.S.-made drones. And so it is... it's a kickback to U.S. It's a, what is it? That's tax break. What's it called where the government gives money to support something and encourage something?
It's kind of a bailout, but are you talking about a subsidy?
Subsidy. There you go. That's the word. This is basically a backdoor subsidy for U.S. drone manufacturers.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas if she said, we're going to raise the price of Chinese drones and give the money to U.S. drone manufacturers, I don't know about that. Oh, but first responders, I mean, who could say no to first responders? Next, you're going to tell me you don't want to give the money to puppies so they can buy drones, This is a real problem. Like, this is just
and I think the real concern here is the way it's pitched. I think it's going to have bipartisan support, and I think it's going to go through at least quite a ways because it has the backing of saying we're going to support first responders and farmers, and like everybody who sees it and doesn't understand it will think it's good,
Well, here's the other thing, Blunty, and I hate to say this, but I think that there's a lot of people in high places in the U.S. government who are antagonistic to China, who think that China is antagonistic to us, and to some degree that's true. Like the U.S. and China have always had I think in some ways a very close relationship in terms of we give them money and they make stuff for us and we buy it. but also kind of an antagonistic relationship to a degree. But I think that for whatever reason, there are people who see that coming to a head. And I think that the idea of, hey, yeah, we're really going to show them, we're going to cut them off from our market. Yeah, screw China. I think that there are people who think that that's a good outcome, independent of everything else. They're just the spying, the information security risks, all that stuff. It's just like they just want to give a middle finger to China, and they think this is a good way to do it. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way that the market can tolerate this increase in price. Even if, as Pacific Source says, it's likely to be bypassable except on the flight controllers. Okay, well, let's say it's just the flight controller. Now, your whole drone, 50% more plus $100.
I was gonna say, I think the biggest problem is, like, bind and flies are never going to get around this, right? Like, I mean, if you try to, like, it's very clear how you're going to try to cheat on a bind and fly. And this whole thing is pointed at things like a bind and fly, right? Like, so, but I don't know, individual parts maybe, but is every company going to continue to produce all these parts when they can't sell bind and flies out of their own company like they always have done to support the parts manufacturer? Like, are we still going to see all these producers produce the quantity they have? Is the price going to be able to stay as low because the quantity's not up? There's so many variables that happen in this when you change a market that, like, I agree, it could maybe happen, but, like, what does it look like on the other side? Who knows, right?
Well, here's what we need to see between now and, well, I guess 2030 is the cutoff. But we really need to see more, and this is true regardless of any political implications. Like, this is not a political podcast, and I'm not here to take a stance on, the political relationship between the U.S. and China. But I think that there are many reasons why it would be good if there were more domestic and European manufacturers of drone parts. Like, for example, I see Dominic Clifton popping up in the chat. He makes SP Racing flight controllers in Europe. There's Orca, who manufactures out of Croatia. Now, they don't do a lot of hobby stuff these days, but they do exist. And like, I've heard other rumblings of companies going, what can we do if we didn't manufacture in China? And maybe some of that is they just see the way this is going. If there is a hope for FPV in the future, maybe, well, the hope would be that these stupid bills get thrown out, but I don't know if we can count on that. The next hope would be that we see such an increase in manufacturing in places that aren't China that, you can still go. It seems like the price has got to go up, and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Hopefully this doesn't go through, but it could.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope not. Thank you for letting us know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got one more piece of news in the law spectrum. So we've heard about previously the Department of Commerce entity list. We reported on it when DJI got added back in the day, and we know that you might remember that this is the one that doesn't really affect anything. It just puts them on a list of bad people to the government or whatever, to commerce, but it doesn't actually change anything in effect. But Tmotor has been added to this, likely for their participation in parts for the war. But yeah, they have been added to the Department of Commerce entity list. And so now technically, if you have dealings with Tmotor, you'll be added to a flagged list with the U.S. government. And in practice, though, we saw all the manufacturers all the companies continue to purchase DJI drones when they got banned and sell them like they were normal. So I expect we'll see, this happened in April. So I expect we'll see a similar thing with this.
When this story first came down, I thought that it meant that Tmotor couldn't be imported. But I don't think that's correct. I think that as I understand it, the entities list pertains to exporting knowledge and parts and other stuff to Tmotor, which I think most people aren't doing. Although I guess, in theory, if you wanted to hire Tmotor to OEM a novel motor design for you, maybe that would fall under this. But if you're just a customer of Tmotor's, I don't think this really affects you at all.
Yeah, I think the restrictions are only on dealings the company has outwardly with Tmotor, but I think any company doing anything with an entity on the list gets flagged by the U.S. government. Is how it works, and then they can like use that right to audit your books to find out if you're doing anything nefarious. I think that's the idea.
So, like for example, Get FPV buys motors from Tmotor. Now the government goes, "Hey, look."
They would then have the right to come in and say, "Let's see your books and make sure you're not doing anything nefarious." Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I don't think that turned any companies away from dealing with DJI. So.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world, Blunty. The world is getting more and more crazy.
It is. Hopefully we see the CCP drones get shot down, but I don't know. And hopefully we see the drones for First Responders Act get shot down. But again, I don't know how that's going to shake out. I think it's much less... we've seen these previous rules in the last few years, and they all got shut down, and they didn't have a lot of chance of going through. And now the Stefanik's in, she's getting bipartisan support and pitching things like she is. I think we're in a world where these things could happen. So,
yeah, I'll tell you, if there is one lost dog that doesn't get rescued because the owner didn't have like the drone that they needed to search for that dog, that's one dog too many. That is unconscionable. Speaking of dogs.
That's all part of it.
Oh, that's right. If he ever got lost, we'd be out there trying to find him with a drone.
100%. I'd be calling everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to send Stefanik videos of dogs being rescued by drones.
We need to put those in Congress.
Yeah. Somebody needs to get a sausage on a drone, on a string, and fly it over Congress. And all the Congress people could, maybe they're just hungry. Okay. Next, we're going to do It's Barely News. But before we do that, we're going to read the super chats. I do want to acknowledge, I saw a couple people trying to ask Q&A questions throughout the stream. This is not a Q&A stream. This is a news stream. So we're going to read the news. We're going to talk about the news. But this is the stream where I take questions and answer them. Actually, we're going to have one of those on Friday night. We're not going to be able to stream on Sunday like we normally do. So we're going to do a bonus stream on Friday. Also, I saw one person was like, "Hey, I emailed you this question. Could you answer it on stream?" I'll answer it in the email and you'll get your answer. Never fear. But we're not going to be doing that here on stream. What I am going to do though is read the super chats that people left because people paid. Oh my God. So there's several $20 super chats. So I definitely need to read those. Here we go. Josh Goldberg, thank you for a $10 super chat. I am building Pango FPV's hovercraft. I'm struggling to map my motors. Excuse me. I hit the mute button just in time. I'm struggling to map my motors. To have 2 lift motors, which are supposedly treated as servos, and 2 motors for control of the craft. Josh Goldberg, first of all, thank you for your $10 donation. There is no way that I could, I think I could figure this out, but there is no way I could talk you through it here on the stream. I would just have to, figure it out. So I'm not going to be able to answer that for you right now, but if you want to email me, I'll try and help walk you through it. Mac Iago, thank you for a $20 super chat. Thanks for the vid on Betaflight 45 GPS. Your vids are lifesavers. Thank you, Mac Iago, for the generous donation. Bill Caravo, thank you for a $2 super chat. Avata 2 and Goggles 2. Thoughts? Not yet. V2 goggles. Interesting, Blunty. We didn't talk about that. So the G2 and the Integra got the compatibility with the Avata 2, but not the V2. Is that right?
Oh, correct. Did he ask about V2? Okay, yeah.
He said V2.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
I don't expect them to get support. I think we talked about that ahead of time. I don't expect them to get that far forward support.
I think so too, but you never know.
Yeah.
Ben Masters, thank you for a $20 super chat. I have an issue with the Crux 3.5. I updated HDZero VTX, Betaflight ELRS. Now the OSD doesn't draw. Flies great, video's great, just no OSD. Ports and VTX are exactly as manual recommends. So, if you updated Betaflight to 4.5, simply setting the ports up is not enough. There are a couple CLI options that you need to enter, and I'm going to guess that you just set up the port and then you didn't do the CLI part. You need to go to the presets tab and load the OSD preset. There's an OSD, I'll even get the name for you. Hold on.
I think it's called HDZero VTXs.
I think you're right. I'm going to double check just to be sure, though. Presets, HDZero. Let me go to, here we go. Yeah, you're correct. It's HDZero VTXs. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose your VTX here. Let me zoom in real quick. I know I just got done saying this is not a Q&A stream, but when somebody spends $20, I feel obligated to answer their question, even though it's not a Q&A. You're going to pick your VTX here, right? And then you're going to pick whatever UART it's on here. You're going to pick, agree, and at the lower right, save and reboot. And you'll see, if we look in here, there are a couple of things like these things here that you probably didn't do if you just set up the ports tab. So that's my guess as to why it's not working. Thank you, Schubert Technologies, for a $2 super chat. Thank you for the Avata 2 BW compatible info. Have FPV so very happy. Well, I'm glad you're happy. Kevin Smith wants to know, will Friday stream conflict with Bot Grinder or Spider Sugar? I don't know. I'm going to stream when I want to stream, and if they're streaming at the same time, that's cool. I don't care. Like, somebody's always going to be streaming sometime in the world. You can watch both streams, one after the other. There's a replay, you know. Like, when I streamed I streamed a couple weeks ago on a Friday because, again, I wasn't going to be able to stream on Sunday, and I just wanted to get one in. And somebody was like, oh, Bardwell's streaming over Bot Grinder. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means I wanted to stream on Friday night. That's it. That's all it means. Let's see here. What time? It'll be in the evening, Kermit FPV. It'll be in the evening. Sorry about that. I mean, I guess Blunty, technically, since Sunday is a Euro stream, it could be in the afternoon, but we didn't schedule it that way, so we're going to stick with it. Okay, let's get on with It's Barely News. Quick drone stories that we don't have a lot to say about other than to show you they exist. Sorry, Blunty, go ahead.
Yeah, and the first one we wanted to let you know is that the Flipper Zero can control HDZero VTX and presumably other VTXs over MSP, because that's how it works, is over MSP. So that's kind of neat. I mean, that makes sense, right? But I didn't know it could do that.
How does the Flipper have MSP support?
I think you can code whatever you want. You just
somebody just coded MSP support for the Flipper.
Yep.
Neat. So
it's not released as open source, but it will be released as open source.
So theoretically, I could have Betaflight Configurator running on my Flipper.
Yeah, I think so. I think it just works as sort of like a programmable outputs on those pins.
Yeah.
You know, kind of whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's just emulating a UART. Fine, cool. If you have a Flipper Zero, here you go. Next up, more drones smuggling drugs with drones and. Oh, man. What happened this time?
Yeah, so basically, criminals are stupid. You knew that. We knew that. If they weren't stupid, they wouldn't be on this article, right? So they bought a house across the river from Canada, across the Niagara River, and then they used that house to fly a drone across the Niagara River from Canada to the U.S. and land at this house. And dropped the drugs off. And they did this multiple times over a year and were caught because they kept going to the same house over and over again. So they just waited for the drone when it came again. And it showed up with drugs and they caught it.
Oh my God. Why did they buy a $600,000 house?
Because they wanted to cover up their activities, I guess. But like...
Yeah, but that doesn't cover up the activities.
I agree with you. And it also puts somebody's name on the lease.
Yeah. Seems like you could I don't know. Like, you're not going to want to just have the big drone with the 6 pounds of ecstasy land next to you on a street, you know, because somebody will notice that.
Yeah, that's the idea. They want to get it down. You got to unpack it, undo it. You got to have places to put all of it and charge all the drones. I'm sure that was the idea, right? But if you buy one house and you keep sending it to the same house, this is exactly what happens, you know?
I think they should have bought a house. Here's their mistake. They bought a $600,000 house in an upscale neighborhood. Upscale neighborhood, people be nosy as shit. They be in your business. They should have bought an $80,000 house in the slums, because nobody in the slums gives a shit.
Like, maybe, but then also they'll try to, like, I don't know.
What?
All I'll
Wait,
say
listen to
is,
this. Listen to this. Listen. Knock, 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 knock. All right, it's the police. Go away. We don't like the police here. No, we think your neighbor's dealing drugs. Good. Go away. That's what it would happen in the slums. I guarantee you.
I'll just say they got 5 of these flights successful with no issues, and then the 6th one is the one that nailed them.
That's how long it took the Karens to catch on. What's that noise? The neighbor's flying a drone? Oh my God.
Yeah, but in the slums, it's like, yo, I heard Tony's getting drugs in. He's got all these drugs. Where'd he get them from? We got to know. That drone's going to come in. We got to nail that thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's pros and cons to both ways. I feel like you could work something out with your neighbors in the slums. I don't know. You probably know better than me.
It's a lot of people to pay off.
$600,000 house, Blunty. You could take the whole $500,000 that you didn't spend on a house.
But if you did this right, you could sell the house afterwards.
You start, listen. You start with a block party. I'm telling you. You buy the house in the slum, you throw a block party. And the next month you throw another block party. And I guarantee you feed the whole neighborhood barbecue and beer, and no one will rat you out. That's what I'm telling you.
Fair enough.
I don't know why I'm arguing about this. I don't know shit about any of this. It's just fun. It's just fun to argue.
All
okay.
Right.
I have one more thing to say. At the beginning of this, you said criminals are stupid. I would like to posit that there's a little bit of selection bias there, because the smart criminals who get away with it aren't in the news.
I did correct. I didn't correct very clearly, but I said, and that's why we're reading about them. But yes,
yeah, we're only reading about the stupid ones. They're
yes.
not all stupid. No one's caught me yet. No, I'm joking. Or am I?
You'll never know. Okay.
If I'm smart, you'll never know. If I'm stupid, you'll find out. Okay.
We've got a late submission that I have not seen. There's a tire and it's going down a mountain and somebody's going to fly through it. That's what I'm understanding.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great little tracking shot. There's a little stabilization on it, but that's a nice shot.
Yeah.
I wish he'd got the second one. That would have been so sick. It was pretty sick, but it wasn't as sick as it could have been.
Yeah.
You know, if only there was a way to convey the emotional impact of what just happened. I know. Let's scream for a while. You could just show me what happened and I could feel the emotions. No? No? We got to set it up.
That's not YouTube.
Oh my God. Did you know what just happened? I know. I saw it.
The channel's name is not How Normal. It's How Ridiculous.
All right. Well, this is why I won't ever have 5 million subscribers. Yeah, show the footage with the screaming in the background. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon Beans. Okay.
Yeah, but you can milk it for another 2 minutes. You watched until it came on, right?
Yeah, but only because you guys were watching it. I thought if I started skipping 10 seconds ahead, you would think badly of me. If I was watching it alone, I would have skipped ahead. And I would have been like, fuck these guys. Okay.
All right.
And yeah, you show the shot and then show the high-fiving and screaming. That's fine. Anyway. Last up,
we want to let you know that Liftoff has created a new project called XR Drone. If you've got the MetaQuest 3 headset, which I think is very few of our audience members, I would guess, just by statistics, but you can try playing Liftoff XR Drone, which is a AR experience that you can fly in your house, and it's like a way to fly a tiny whoop in your house without having a tiny whoop.
Is it FPV or line of sight only?
I think it's line of sight only because you're in the VR goggles. But
okay. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'd like an FPV overlay.
Well, they would have to try to simulate your room virtually and then fly you through it, which would be
I see the problem.
This is just perspective.
I see why that would be very difficult. Oh well. Oh, that's kind of cool. Excuse me, I have the hiccups now.
All right.
Well, now you're caught up on all the news of the week. And we'll be back. When will we be back, Blunty? Hang on.
I was just going to check. I have the next news as a month from now.
You guys have no idea. I assure you. I assure you. Yeah.
I have the next news is June 2nd.
I got to tell you,
2nd.
I'm so
July
looking forward to July because I have no travel booked in July right now. And I don't think I'm going to.
When I see it.
I know, but look at June. June is such a mess.
I agree. So yeah, just so you guys know, we'll be doing a Friday, like we talked about. We're doing the Friday stream, 7 p.m. CST. We'll be doing that like our late streams we typically do. And then our next stream, tentatively, will be Sunday, June 30th.
Yes. Yep.
And then we'll
Sunday,
be streaming
June
that
30th.
week, and we'll kind of be back to it at that point, unless you book some more stuff.
I really don't want to, though. I'm really looking forward to like even this last 2 weeks. Technically, the last 2 weeks when I was gone was like most of the time when I'm gone, I'm working. I'm just doing a different kind of work. These last 2 weeks, as you may know, Fabio, my editor, and his wife Maria came to the U.S. and I spent like 2 weeks showing them around. Just so grateful for all he's done, with me and for the channel. And just really wanted to commit. I didn't like, they're here. I wasn't going to be like, hey guys, could you give me an afternoon to make a video? Like, when are they going to be here again? Who knows? So it was actually a vacation. But what it wasn't was just being home alone doing my thing. And right now I'm like, July. I'm looking forward to having 4 weeks in July where I get to just be home and do my thing. And then August, I got 2 weeks, and then all of August, 3 weeks here, and then 2 weeks in September, and then, yeah, not much till the end of the year. So there we go. It's over. Just over. Yep. We'll see how it goes. It looks like we need to pay JB more in super chats to make him stick around. Thank you for the thought, Killdozer. It's not like that, but I can't really say much more about what it is like. So it is what it is. But I'm happy to have been here with you guys and with you, Blunty, and I'm happy to finish up the news. So we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.